and welcome to the Jill Berlin Show. We are so excited to have you here today, and we are going to start our show as we always do with the positive quote of the day. And this is by Gretchen Carlson. She said, "We have all lived through setbacks and our own horrors. Somehow we have to pick ourselves back up and do the things you think you cannot do." All right, now I have a question for you before we bring up our guest. Have you ever had Naomi Watts and Nicole Kidman portray you on TV or a movie? Well, the co-founder of Lift Our Voices has. It is our very own Gretchen Carlson, and we are so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thanks for having me, Jill. Great to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Okay, so I want to start off by telling you guys a little bit about Gretchen. She's always been an incredible mentor to me, and I would not be where I am today had it not been for all the wisdom and advice and help that she's given me. So she's a former CBS and Fox News journalist, and she's internationally recognized for women's rights and fighting for women and making sure the workplace is a safe place for us to work in. And she's also an author of 2 books. She's also created laws in Congress with bipartisan support, which we all know is nearly impossible these days. And she's also been named Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world. There's a ton of awards that I could go into. I'm not going to yet. But one of the reasons why she has been so known is because of she never let others push her around, I'll say. And so let's just give a little backstory, Gretchen, if you don't mind, of what happened in 2016 when news broke that you were suing the man behind Fox News, who no one thought could take down, except you did. Roger Ailes. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you were actually with me at Fox during a lot of that time as an intern, and you were getting up in the middle of the night just like me to come in and do the show. But I was at Fox for 11 years after I was at CBS News and worked at a ton of local stations before that. So I had really worked my way up the right way to try and get to the top. And I had reached my goal of doing a national morning show. When I went to Fox, my mom was in town that day in New York City. And I remember her saying to me afterwards, "This must be one of the happiest days of your life." And at the time I was like, yes, of course. Well, then things, slowly changed over the 11 years that I was there. And unfortunately, I can't get into all the details, but people may or may not know from the movies and just the other accounts that I did end up jumping off the cliff, as I call it, by myself on July 6th, 2016, and just coming forward and saying that I had been not treated well and that I was facing sexual harassment by the chairman and CEO of Fox for a very long time. And that I was retaliated against, which is the most important part of the story for not acquiescing. So I was fired. I was fired on June 23rd, which was the last day of my contract. And then, 2 weeks later, it was like, surprise, here's my lawsuit, which I had been planning on for quite some time. Quite honestly, we never thought that I would be fired because my lawyers just said that would make it look so obvious.
Right.
But, I don't know now in retrospect, like I don't ever want to say I'm thankful I got fired because I don't think anyone ever wants to go through that. And certainly I lost my career at Fox as a result of it. So, but the flip side is 9 years later, almost, this will end up becoming my legacy. And I've reinvented myself to really change the workplace, so I have no regrets.
So, yeah. And I'm just going to pull up some pictures here. Here's, we're just really impressed with Lift Our Voices. Again, that's something that you have started. Here's Naomi Watts with, Russell Crowe's obviously acting as Roger Ailes there, things that you might have had to go through, Nicole Kidman. And then, what's interesting to me is that we have this environment, right, where we're trying so hard to not be looked at as, some type of sexual piece, but something where we work really hard for what we have rightfully earned. And I remember people, Gretchen, asking me, well, you worked with her. Why is she doing this? What's going to happen? What's going on? And I just remember looking at them saying, She was a prodigy in the violin at 13. She was valedictorian. She went to Stanford. She studied at Oxford University. They're messing with the wrong person. They're messing with the wrong person because she's not just beautiful. She is smart and she's driven. So she's the triple threat.
No.
And which is one of the reasons why I think I gravitated towards you so much, because I wanted to emulate that strength. And so for all the women out there, and I've said this too, you're like the modern day Susan B. Anthony.
Oh,
So
well, I appreciate that. No, look, that's like the biggest compliment that I can get, that somebody would actually want to emulate me. You know, I grew up in a small town in Minnesota. I pride myself on being kind to people, even with a ton of drive and fire in my belly. But I always made sure that I spent a lot of time with young women coming up in the business, because my biggest piece of advice was, come and be an intern in television, because you're going to maybe find out you don't want to do it. It's not necessarily all, you know, getting your hair and makeup done and being famous. There's a tremendous amount of hard work. And a lot of people who do come into the system realize that maybe they don't want to be on air. Maybe they want to be a producer. Maybe they don't even want to be in TV anymore. And so I really appreciate your kind words. It means the world to me that I've made a difference in other people's life, because I had a lot of help too. And look, that's the name of this whole game, is that I'm trying to lift women up now in the workplace so they don't have to put up with this crap anymore, because it still exists in 2025. I've made it easier for people to speak out on the laws that I've passed, but it's still hard because we still live in a culture where you're probably going to be punished if you come forward.
it's so true. And let's talk a little bit about that. You've since leaving Fox and settling that lawsuit and getting $20 million, you have written the books Getting Real, Be Fierce. You've passed legislation. And I got to tell you, going up to DC and fighting to get that bipartisan support is so difficult, so time consuming. And, there's a reason there's that saying, it's like an act of Congress, right? Yeah. There's so much red tape. Take us a little bit through that. You passed the Ending Forced Arbitration for Sexual Assault and Sexual Harassment Act, also known as EFAA, because DC loves their acronyms. And so tell us a little bit about what that was like and how it came to be.
Yeah. So after I came forward, I started hearing from thousands of people across our country, women and men, but mainly women who had had similar experiences that I had. And I realized there was an epidemic for sexual harassment still in the workplace, but there was also an epidemic of people being silenced. And I figured out that it was these things that companies started putting in our contracts about 30 years ago, 40 years ago. One thing is called forced arbitration, which people have no idea what the hell that is. And what it means is that you can't file a lawsuit. You have to go to this secret chamber called arbitration. And it works really well for the company and not for you at all, because it's secret. So that means that the perpetrator doesn't get fired and gets to keep working. And so the vicious cycle continues and you get pushed out and you don't own your own voice. And the second evil is something called a non-disclosure agreement, which I'm sure people have heard of a lot, an NDA. And so those were sort of the two evils that I decided I needed to fight against. There were people in Washington who had been fighting this for a long time, but it was kind of like the perfect storm, because I got the institutional knowledge from them about these issues, and they could use my high profile case as somebody to call attention. And so I started walking the halls of Congress. I'm making it a really short story right now, but it took 5 years to get the bipartisan support. At the time, Democrats were in charge of the Senate, but I still needed to have 10 Republicans because of something called the filibuster. And it took me 5 years to get 10 more moderate Republicans to decide that maybe women should not be silenced when they're assaulted or harassed at work. So fast forward, I was at the White House with the president signing this into law 3 years ago, March 3rd, 2022. The biggest labor law change in the last 100 years. It means that you can now file a lawsuit. It's your choice, but you at least have the option now to not be forced into arbitration.
Yes.
And a short 8 months later, I passed the Speak Out Act on December 8th, 2022, which means that women facing sexual assault or harassment cannot be silenced by NDAs. So, massive progress. I'm not done yet, though, because I have another bill called Protecting Older Americans Act, which was has made it through now the Senate Judiciary Committee, also bipartisan. This would take away forced arbitration for age discrimination. So as an organization at Lift Our Voices, we fight for all protected classes to not be silenced. So that would include gender, race discrimination, everything else that would fall into those categories. So we still have a long way to go so that people can be treated fairly at work.
So tell us a little bit about that, because you have you're the co-founder of Lift Our Voices, and it is so empowering, all the things that you're doing. And the fact that it took you 5 years to even pass something and you stuck with it, it just goes to show and speaks so highly of your tenacity. And once again, the brains behind that beauty. So the trifecta. And I love that about you, Gretchen. I really do. And not only that, most importantly, like you said, you're helping others. So tell us more about Lift Your Voices.
So after I was doing all of this advocacy work on the Hill, I had another colleague who used to be at Fox News, Julie Roginski, who was a Democratic strategist there. And she used to come on my show at least once a week. I had her reach out to me. She had actually filed a lawsuit against Roger Ailes and Fox 10 months after me. So I guess I gave her the courage to do that, and other people. And we decided to make it official, the work that I was doing, and she wanted to join me and help in the fight. And so we formed Lift Our Voices, which is a nonprofit organization. It's the only organization in the world that's doing this work to get rid of forced arbitration and NDAs for bad behavior at work. We really believe it's a silver bullet to equity, because if a company believes in silencing you, and just so people know, this year, 84% of all Americans will be under forced arbitration, 84%, and they have no idea. It's in their handbook, it's in something they clicked on, it's in a workplace contract. So it's an epidemic. 1/3 of all Americans sign NDAs on the first day of work, thinking that it's only to protect trade secrets or proprietary information, which I agree, companies should be able to keep that secret. But these NDAs have become so expansive that you actually sign on the first day of work that you can never talk about anything else that ever happens to you before it's actually happened. I mean, it's crazy. So this is a really essential issue to equity. Sorry, what did you say?
People don't even know what they're
signing. They have no idea. So we formed Lift Our Voices as an umbrella for the advocacy work I was doing, but also as an educational organization and a research organization. To your point, when I go speak before 2,000, 3,000 people, the first question out of my mouth is, raise your hand if you know what forced arbitration is, and if you think you've signed a contract that has it in it. Nobody raises their hand. Well, you did. Yeah, you are. Because you and I've talked.
I know a lot about it because of
people don't know. So education is a huge part of what we do, especially young people coming into the workplace. And we're hoping, because young people tend to want to have safer environments and they're more willing to speak up, we're hoping that we can really get to them early on about these issues so that we can normalize them, so that they will say, you know what, I'm not going to sign this contract, and that they won't be the only ones saying that, right? So it's really important we do a ton of research. Nobody's ever cared about these topics to do research before. So that was the essence of why we formed the organization. And we've been very successful. We have people like Melinda Gates, who now, help to fund our organization. She believes in our issues. And so if people want to learn more, they can go to liftourvoices.org.
And I actually want to read a quote by Melinda Gates. I'm glad you brought that up. This important new law, a bipartisan effort, this is about, all the laws that you've been passing, makes it harder to silence victims of sexual harassment with NDAs. Thank you, Gretchen Carlson and Julie Roginski, for courageously turning your own painful experiences into a step forward for women in the workplace. And unfortunately, she's right. Normally, something really bad has to happen in order for change to come. And thankfully, you were the one who stepped up and did that along with Julie. And what's interesting to me is, like you said, the lack of information, the lack of knowledge. And I think the hardest part too is for young up and coming women. They don't want to speak out. They don't want to ruffle the feathers. They don't want to say, we don't want this in our contract. But what you're doing is you're saying, no, that's okay. And you should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that, there's power in numbers. The more that people can congregate together and say that they're not going to do it. So, for example, if you are at your workplace right now and you look in your handbook or your contract and you're like, oh gosh, I have one of those forced arbitration clauses, or I also have an NDA, get together with people. I mean, decide to form a group to go in and say, is there a way that we could have these taken out, or educate yourself at least on my laws? Because here's the key to it, Jill. Companies can still put forced arbitration and NDAs in their contracts, even though I've passed these laws. It's up to the individual to understand that they don't have to abide by it, at least for sexual misconduct. So, companies aren't going to write a contract that says, hey, for addiction, you're still going to be forced into the secret chamber of arbitration. But for sexual misconduct, you have a voice. They're not going to be nice and parse it out like that for you. The law doesn't demand that they do that. So it's really up to the worker to understand. And, I equate it to parental leave. If you look at 15 years ago, dads were not taking it, right? I mean, they just weren't, because they were looked at like this issue's looked at like, oh, you're weak if you take leave when you have a baby, right? That's for the woman to do. Now look at what's happened. More men started to do it, and so they normalized it. And so now people just accept the fact that that's going to happen, right? Including bosses at companies. So that's my hope with these issues, is that the more we normalize them, the more people become educated, the more they start asking questions and saying, could we take that out of my contract? I'd love to work here, but I'd love to own my own voice. Then we come to a place where we really get to equality. And what people should understand is, I don't own my own voice. I mean, you're showing pictures of Nicole Kidman and Naomi Watts playing me in The Loudest Voice, which was the miniseries, and Bombshell, which was the movie. Those aren't my products. Like I couldn't even participate in these things. And so people come up to me and say, I loved your movie. And I'm like, I am so glad that actresses of this caliber decided to take on these roles to bring attention to these issues. But I can't even tell you if the depiction of me is accurate or not because of the non-disclosures that I've had to sign. So, the weird thing is, I may never own my own voice, but I'm going to make sure that other people do. And that's really what pushes me to do the work that I do. Yeah.
It was actually, I watched the one with Naomi Watts, and I did not watch the Bombshell movie because the one with Naomi Watts was enough for me and just to hit home. So I didn't need to watch anymore. Mm-hmm. But my question for you is it's easy to talk about like all the things that you've done, but it's hard to wake up and do it every day. So how is it? We got about 1 minute and then we're going to break to commercial and come back and talk to you a little bit more. But how is it that you do that on a day-to-day basis, Gretchen?
I know I have to be a really optimistic person. The glass is always half full, especially now because I hate to say it, but the media kind of, if there's one little negative story, the media says, Me Too is dead. And that's very frustrating to me because I'm in the trenches every single day doing a tremendous amount of work. I try to encourage the media to cover like all the positive progress that we've had instead of always just, really making the headline about something negative about the movement. So if you're listening out there, please cover the positive stories. But yeah, I look, my kids are what keep me going. I now have a 20-year-old and a 22-year-old, hard to believe.
One you went to Duke.
Yes, one just graduated Duke, the other's at Michigan, and they are the lights of my life. And I really did all of this for them because really we don't want our kids to go through some of the experiences that we've had in this world. And it's sad to say that it still exists in the world that they're going to enter. But I do it for them.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, we're going to continue to talk to Gretchen Carlson. She is such a powerhouse, and I am so grateful that she is here. You are listening to The Jill Berlin Show. Stay tuned.
It's the Love Shack. That's where it's at. When the B-52 start dropping song bombs in October at PNC Music Pavilion in Charlotte. special guest Devo. So crack the whip this week and whip up some tickets. With Jeffrey Griffin and Josh Graham right here on WSJS before you can buy them this Friday. Live Nation and WSJS.com have all the information. Let's go.
Stop in today at Biscuit King in High Point and Lexington. Biscuit King has delicious lunch specials daily. And you could get it at 5 a.m. if you'd like. Full breakfast and lunch menus served all day.
Biscuit King, home of the good enormous biscuit.
They're out there. And who, you ask, are they? Listeners to this station. They love talk, they love sports, they love community events, they love information. And your message to them is more information that they can make decisions with. Purchase decisions, service decisions, event decisions. Make our listeners your next customer. If you own or run a business, please consider advertising to thousands at a time right here on the place they already love. Just email us at info@truthnetwork.com and we'll show you how. That's info@truthnetwork.com.
Your car's a mess, and so is your to-do list. With family vacations looming, it's time to rev up your ride. But don't stress. Let Haviland Express Lube and Service in Kernersville smooth your journey. From oil changes, tires, transmission work, brake repair, North Carolina inspections, and all types of general automotive repair, they've got you covered. Plus, shine your car before and after your trip with their state-of-the-art car wash. Haviland Express Lube and Service, Highway 66 in Kernersville, your one-stop shop for hassle-free travel.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
That first time seeing my son, I feel like my life did a 180. He really a definition of like why he loves somebody.
Through all of fatherhood's first, never stop being a dad. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Back to the Jill Berlin Show on Triad Today.
And welcome back. We are here with Gretchen Carlson, who is the co-founder of Lift Our Voices. And she's also the author of Be Fierce and Getting Real. And Gretchen, I just want to say thank you so much from all of the women out here for shattering ceilings, those glass ceilings, and for always being at the forefront. It's not easy being the trailblazer, but you know, when God puts you in those positions, you got to keep going. And you know, it's hard to do that. And a lot of people back down from the confrontation and the fires, but you just keep going and you just keep putting them out. And then you just keep trudging on. So I really am grateful for all that you do. And so I know that there's a woman out there, at least one, or a girl who's listening and they want more information because they've gone through this. So tell us some of the resources and where they can go and what they can do.
Yeah, well, the first place is liftourvoices.org. There's actually a resources tab. There's also a state map where you can see if your state enforces NDAs or not. We also do work at the state level, which we didn't talk about, but that's really important as well. And so, yeah, Lift Our Voices is where it is. If you just want to learn more about me, you can go to GretchenCarlson.com. But thank you so much, Jill. We need to keep spreading the message.
Absolutely. Liftourvoices.org. All right, stay tuned. We've got Ron Deal coming up, the author, in the next segment. This is the Jill Berlin Show.
I wish summer could be endless fun, don't you? Well, guess what? It can be. With the Summer of Winning at WSJS.com, your summer can be fun and exciting. Enter for your chance to win tickets to the biggest concerts, thrilling PBR events, Charlotte FC games, and more.
Hey, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. Yeah, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. Hey.
Winning is easy and the fun is endless. Visit WSJS.com to join the Summer of Winning and keep the good times rolling.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Piedmont Triad area weather, some showers and thunderstorms today. We have cold front on its way through our area. We'll be in the low 90s. Rain chances look pretty good. Wind will be gusty. A few showers overnight and mid 60s, and then we're getting sunshine back on Friday and pretty warm. We're in the upper 80s, sunny, and 90s for the upcoming weekend. I'm meteorologist Steve Hamilton for News Talk Sports for the Triad, WSJS.
I want to feel it.
Hi, folks. Brian Kilmeade here. I'm so excited to bring the latest breaking news, sports, politics, and entertainment to High Point, to Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and beyond. Join me this morning at 10 right here on your home for the Brian Kilmeade Show. News, talk, sports for the Triad, WSJS.
The best bulls in the world have come to town. For bulls and their riders, those 8 seconds go by in a heartbeat. 8 seconds to become a champion, or nothing. It's bull time. PBR Tryon, powered by Stellar Power Solutions, bucks into Tryon International this weekend. Tickets at PBR.com and Tryon.com. This is America, and this is PBR.
Life is full of noise, but your garage door doesn't have to be. With Precision Garage Door, experience the whisper quiet peace of their high-quality belt drive systems. Right now, enjoy $75 off any new door opener. May not be combined with any other offers. Plus, ask about a free service call with any repair. Don't let a noisy garage door disrupt your day. Visit PrecisionDoorNC.com and bring tranquility back to your home. PrecisionDoorNC.com, your silent partner in smooth operations.
Hi, I'm Jay Delsing, a two-time All-American and PGA Tour veteran of 25 years. I know the game of golf inside and out. Each week, we'll feature celebrity golfers, share their laughs, inside stories, and offer great tips to improve your golf game.
I want to swing, don't you want to swing with me?
Brought to you by Mercedes-Benz of Winston-Salem, proudly serving our community for over 50 years. That's Golf with Jay Delsing, Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. on WSJS.
Try it today with Jeffrey Griffin, only on WSJS.
It's time to lift your spirit, and Jill Berlin is here to motivate and inspire you.
Here's to whatever puts a smile on your face. Whatever makes you happy, people.
Welcome to the Jill Berlin Show on Triad Today.
And welcome back. You are listening to the Jill Berlin Show. I am so excited to have Ron Deal here with us, who is author of The Smart Step Family, Mindful Marriage, so many books. I'm going to keep putting them up on stage here, but you have helped millions of people with their marriages, and you have made a tremendous difference, not only in their lives, but also their children's lives, which means their children's lives and their children's lives. And so what's impressive to me is you had to go through, Ron, a lot of hardship in order to now come to this point in your life. And I was actually just speaking with Gretchen Carlson prior to this, and she too had to go through hardship. And we were talking about how you have to keep going and trudge through it. Yeah. So give us a little bit of background for those of you, or for those viewers who may not know you, about kind of some of the things that you went through to now where you are today as a writing and speaker machine. And how you help so many folks.
Well, Jill, thank you first of all for having me on the program. It's good to be with you. Yeah, you know, man, life takes us on journeys, doesn't it? So I've been in marriage and family education and ministry for 36 years. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. Sometimes you have professional interests that you end up chasing, and that's the blended family side of me. Mm-hmm. Then you have personal stories and narratives that change you forever. That's the marriage educator in me and the grief counselor in me. So just real quickly, the professional side, I've given myself to helping step families, and now I've spent 30 years in that space, written 9 books. We have 8 video curriculum, lead the largest blended family ministry in the world, and it's really a joy to be able to do that. The Mindful Marriage, the book that people are looking at now if they're watching, is our latest project. My wife and I did that together, and page 1 of chapter 1 starts with the moment that our marriage blew up, and we desperately needed some help, and we found ourselves stepping into the office of a person I had respected and known of, an expert in marriage and family therapy, and it turns out he was in the process of developing what is, fast forward now, about 20 years, what is now known as restoration therapy, which is used around the world. And it is one of the most innovative treatment modalities that's being used in a lot of different contexts. And we had the blessing of receiving that, even though we were in the midst of marriage and family education and ministry ourselves. We're just like everybody else, Jill, right? I mean, just because people are listening to us right now doesn't mean our lives are perfect. That's just not life. And so fast forward, yeah, that's right. Fast forward, we were able to partner with the Hargraves, Dr. Terry Hargrave and his wife Sharon, and bring their incredible life's work to the masses through the book, The Mindful Marriage. And we're just so excited to be able to share that, because I know personally how it impacts a life. And then I'll just add that third component, and I'll let you tell us where you want to go next. The other personal tragedy for us is we lost a child. Our middle son, Connor, died at the age of 12. It's now been 16 years. I've just crossed another Father's Day without him. And let me tell you, the tears still flow. I miss that kid. He should be 28, going on 29 right now. He's not. We're about to come across his next birthday if he were still with us. You know, the calendar won't let you forget, and your heart never stops loving, and so you never stop grieving. And so we have found ourselves the recipients of other people who poured into us when we lost him, and they got us through the, dreadful, terrible valley of the shadow of death. And now we're on the other side where we're giving back to parents who have lost children. We volunteer with a national ministry that's working in those spaces, and we've been on Grief Share and other places we get to share what we've learned along the way, because life's hard, and none of us should try to do it by ourselves.
It's so true. What was, give me real quick, what was Connor like?
Oh my goodness. We have two creatives, three boys. Our oldest two are super creative. Our oldest is a musician at this point, and Connor was the creative. I don't know if you know this or not, but they didn't make enough Star Wars movies, according to Connor. So he was writing the next trilogy. They just gave up too soon. And so we would find him in the backyard, jumping on the trampoline, twisting, turning, making sound effects. And I'd be like, dude, what are you doing? And he'd be like, Dad, hold on. He'd hold up that one finger, like, give me a second. And I'd wait, and then he'd finally get done. And I'd go, okay, tell me what you're doing. He goes, I'm scripting the fight scene for the movie that I'm going to be doing. And that's where he lived. He was an artist. He had a voice like an angel. And we've got a couple of videos out there on YouTube that we share every Christmas of him singing a solo in a Christmas production. And that's who he was. And I mean, he's just another kid, just another kid. And we loved him like crazy. And boy, I miss him. He got a MRSA staph infection and complained of a headache, and that was our first symptom. And 10 days later, he was gone. And this is a hard road, for people of faith, for people not of faith, no matter where you are in this world, you have to contend with things that are beyond you when a death like that happens. And it's not an easy road. And there are lessons to be learned, and grief carries on.
So what's impressive to me about you and Nan is that your dedication to one another, because at the end of the day, when you go through all of that, and my husband and I have listened to your story about Connor, and I tell him every time, I can't listen to this part. As a mom, it's just, and it's hard for me to fight the tears right now. And so I just I can't imagine what you've been through. And so it's impressive to me that you turn that grief and sadness and difficulty in your marriage into something that helps so many. And so tell us a little bit about kind of, some of the tips and tools and strategies, because you have so many and people need help.
Yeah.
And especially after COVID, there's so many people who got divorced or remarried or, and now they're divorcing from their second marriages. And, and it's so hard. And you have to have that commitment to one another because, like you said, life is hard and it's messy. And wouldn't that be nice if it was just rainbows and butterflies? But it's not.
But it's not. And Jill, I'm glad you can't imagine what it's like to lose a child. I don't want you to imagine that. And you shouldn't have to. Everybody listening to us right now or watching has experienced grief. Everybody has, one form or another. There's different intensities of grief. There's different levels. It's about different things. If a job loss or an unwanted change or, a relationship that breaks up or death of a spouse, or, there's different levels of intensity. And then the natural disasters that come, the flooding in North Carolina that happened over the last year, fires, hurricanes, like on and on, life goes. And we all experience grief and loss on some level. Let me just do some commentary on, in the West, we want to conquer everything in the world. And that has been our approach to dealing with grief. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, figure out what's going on. What's the lesson God wants you to learn, and get on with life. That's the kind of stuff that we do to ourselves. This is not how grief works. It is not how grief works. We tell parents all the time, look, you're never going to stop loving your child. So why do you think you're going to stop grieving them? Because grief is just liquid tears. That's all that it is. And so whatever that thing was that you were attached to that you no longer have, and you have to adjust to the loss of that thing, you're going to carry that. And you're going to figure out how to, in our case, carry our child with us, even though he's not here. I can't hug him. I can't see him. I can't talk to him. But I carry him with me every single day in some form or another, in conversation, in my thought life, in I wear this little wristband. It's sort of my reminder. He loved Mountain Dew. We love Mountain Dew, so it's Mountain Dew green. Those things matter. Whether it's a tattoo or whatever that thing is, you're still carrying that person or that thing with you. And then there's the talking about, There's the thing that we don't want to do because nobody wants to be sad in front of other people. And look, be very careful who you're sad in front of. We tell parents all the time, only about 1/10 of the people in your life can tolerate your level of grief. Your job, and see, this is where I make people mad, Jill.
It's okay.
Your job as a grieving person is to find that 10th. With other kinds of losses like a job loss or a transition or a relationship breakup, I think it's about 1/3 of the people. With a child, it's only 1/10. But your job is to find those people and hang around them, and that's where you share your grief. All the other people in your world, you just sort of are casual about it. You don't really let them into what we call your grief garden because they can't handle it. They don't know how to be there. They step on the flowers. They don't treat you well. They say, okay, it's time for you to move on. Like their level of tolerance for your sadness is very shallow. And because of that, they're not safe people for you to be around. And when I said a minute ago, this is where I make people mad, it's because somebody shared this with me 16 years ago, right after Connor died, and it made me mad because I thought, I'm the grieving dad. Why am I the one who has to do the work to figure out whether you can tolerate my sadness or not? But the truth is, nobody's going to do that work for me. It is my job. And I don't care what that sadness is in your world. Be very selective about the people you share it with. But when you find them, you have got to open up. You got to put words, because words are going to help expend your grief and you're not going to cry anymore. Nope. I got news for you. What it does, it doesn't get rid of anything because, again, we carry that sadness with us. It takes various forms and the intensity changes, but we carry it with us forever, I believe, especially really significant losses. But the point of words is that it takes something inside of you and pushes it outside of you, and somehow that sort of pulls you forward in life. The trick to grieving is that we have to do two things. Dan and I call these the two rails of grief. The left, like if you're on a train, it's got two train tracks, right? So the left rail is deep sadness and sorrow over what has changed. The right rail is hope for a new day.
And grieving, and I just want to make sure we're clear. Grieving is like anything, it's not just losing someone. It's also, losing that thought of having that happily ever after and a marriage, and then, divorce or, a job or whatever, so I just want to go into this, making sure everyone knows this is something that you can use in every aspect of your life. Go ahead. Sorry, Ron.
No. In fact, a real quick comment on that. Like I've often used an earthquake analogy. You have a massive earthquake, and if you're at the epicenter, then everything in your world is shattered, broken, pieces everywhere, and you can't find anything. You don't even know where to start to do life again. But then there's the aftershocks, and the aftershocks are the changes that come about as a result of the big earthquake. And so they go on for, like, I'm 16 years in and I'm still experiencing aftershocks. Every time I introduce myself to someone and they say, how many kids do you have? Guess what? That's an aftershock for me, because I have to make a decision. Am I going to tell you that I have a son who passed away, or am I not going to go there today? Am I up for it, or see, that's an aftershock. My life is forever changed as a result of the massive earthquake 16 years ago. This is the way grief rolls.
It is so true. All right, when we come back, we are going to ask Ron Deal what is the one resounding message he wants you to know, and he's going to let you know, because there's a million things. Obviously, he's written a million books. All right, stay tuned. You are listening to the Jill Berlin Show.
You wake up craving the latest news, talk, sports, and weather. You tune into WSJS.com, where you listen live worldwide. Dive into stories with your favorite show hosts. Discover the latest concert info and exciting contests. Attend live appearances and cheer for your sports teams. From dusk to dawn, WSJS.com keeps you informed, entertained, and connected. It's your world, your station. Visit WSJS.com today, where news meets you at every moment.
Here's to the sparkle that turns heads and the shine that steals the show. The Express Turbo Wash at Haviland Express Lube and Service. It's super fast and super clean, featuring Rain-X, Triple Foam Polish, Extreme Shine Hot Wax, Wheel Clear, and more. Pamper your ride with the Loyalty Rewards program. Enjoy a free car wash on your birthday and unlimited monthly washes. Look fresh and look fine.
I'm looking fresh, I'm looking fine.
The Express Turbo Wash at Haviland Express Lube and Service, Highway 66 in Cornersville.
A Gain Scent Bead story. Jim was at the laundromat when he heard his ear said, "Maraca, senor," but his nose said, "Hey, freshest scent ever." Following his nose, Jim found a man pouring a bottle of Gain Scent Beads into the washer. The scent, the freshness. Jim blurted, "Sir, your scent maracas smell amazing." Actually, Jim, most noses call them Gain scent beads. Try Gain scent beads. Way fresher than detergent alone.
When your little one has a cold with a fever, try new Dayquil Kids Cold and Cough Plus Fever. It's the daytime coughing, aching, sore throat fever just for kids medicine. Dayquil Kids Cold and Cough Plus Fever offers fast, effective cold and fever relief for kids ages 6 and up with a delicious grape flavor that kids love. New Dayquil Kids Cold and Cough Plus Fever will help them feel better fast so they can get back to the fun stuff quickly. New Dayquil Kids Cold and Cough Plus Fever. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Whether you're tinkering in your garage or tackling big projects, if you know the value of working with your hands, you know Harbor Freight. And you can be confident knowing that at Harbor Freight, you can get quality tools at prices that work just as hard as you do. Because the only thing more satisfying than a job well done is a job well done, well under budget. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. It's time to lift your spirit. And Jill Berlin is here to motivate and inspire you. Welcome to the Jill Berlin Show on Triad Today.
And welcome back. We are speaking with Ron Deal, who is author of many books. The latest is by his wife and himself, Ron and Ann Deal, The Mindful Marriage. And we were just talking about when you're experiencing hardships in your life, what to do. And Ron, you were saying there's 2 rails. Continue on.
Yeah, so the left rail being sadness and sorrow and pain and heartache, that's the grieving stuff that we do. The right rail is there's hope for another day. The left rail is I miss Connor today. Why did God let him die? Questions and doubt and really wrestling with those important, hard things. The right rail is, but I do believe God is good and I don't understand what's going on. And so I'm going to trust that somehow something is happening here that's important. The left rail is, my goodness, I feel weird when I walk into a room and like, how many other parents are here with dead kids? And like, I feel out of the, isolated and alone in a space full of lots of people. The right rail is, yeah, but there's always somebody who's got that gift of compassion and mercy who connects. And it's okay. I'm going to find my way through this little space. You can see what I'm talking about here. Those 2 things are side by side in parallel. They never seem to touch, but we live and move forward in life on both of them. Sometimes people in the initial, after a grief and loss, they get stuck in the sorrow. They get stuck in the sorrow and they have no hope for tomorrow. Sometimes people kind of jump to the right rail and go, hey, God is good all the time, God is good. And they just erase their pain and act as if that doesn't happen. Neither one of those is psychologically. Exactly. Neither one of those is emotionally or psychologically healthy. We have to live on both. We have to travel on both. We have to live in those spaces on both. And we'll move back and forth between the rails. Some days it's this, some days it's that. Some days it's heavy on one, more on the other. Life changes over time. The point is, active grieving looks like both of those things. And it feels a bit schizophrenic, Jill, just to be honest. Because on some days you just want to do nothing but cry and sit in a room in the dark and not talk to anybody. And on the next day, you may feel like, okay, but I got to get up and get back to work and do life again. And you do. And you make yourself do it, even though you don't feel like doing any of those things. Guess what? That little combination of grieving one day and getting back to life the next day is how we move through the hardships of life.
Well, thank you for that, Ron, because now I actually feel normal.
Good, because that's exactly how you're supposed to feel. And you're supposed to realize with this that there's a hope. Like, just because you feel crazy about what's going on in your world doesn't mean you're doing this grief thing wrong. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be crazy making. That's the point of the sadness. Just don't give up on the process.
Yeah, and I think just acknowledging that too is really important. My husband and I have a code word. It's actually Job.
Yeah.
Because, Job goes through a lot.
Yes.
And so like if it's, just the combination of just all of our life and the things that we have to deal with, we're just like Job.
Yeah.
And that means there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
you don't
that's
need
it.
to dive into it. It's just a Job day.
Yes. And there's a little request in that too, I can see for you guys, maybe for you, that where you're going, please have a little patience and empathy and compassion for me because I'm just crazy right now in my head. And we need that too from the people that are around us. And so good for you for having a little code word. That's helpful.
Yeah. Well, then you don't have to go into all the crazy details. Sometimes you don't want to relive it.
You get a little grace. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I know. Well, what would you say is something that you find is really important to tell other folks?
As it relates to,
give us your website real quick. We got about a minute left.
Okay. So there is hope for a new day. There's a whole lot about, speaking of Job, I think the takeaway from his life was he can trust God with things that he will never understand.
That's right.
And that's my posture 16 years in, and that's where I'm going to keep walking. And we got to hang on to that. I work for an organization called Family Life. We do marriage and family education events, training, online stuff all over the world. FamilyLife.com is where people can find me. My personal website, rondeal.org. Get in touch. We're doing events, different things around the country. So we'd love to get connected.
And we would love to have you back. Will you come back, Ron?
I would love to come back. This has been fun. Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, that is amazing. Well, I'm so glad. All right, rondeal.org. We're so grateful for Ron and all that he does helping families. And I'm sorry for all the grief and things that you have gone through, but we're grateful for helping us and other families get through it. So thank you for that, Ron.
Well, thank you. I told my wife a long time ago, if we're going to go through this deep, deep, dark valley, we're going to do something with it.
There you go.
There you go.
I love it. All right. For Christian Snyder, who is my amazing producer, I'm Jill Berlin. Until next week.